So today I will speak about the role of body in spirituality. Many people kind of look at spirituality from solely bodily context, and so yet there is no deep knowledge, no knowledge of the body, which comes directly from within oneself. So true spirituality is based on self-born knowledge. Self-born knowledge means is the knowledge that comes from within, that you're not like reading about this or you're not listening to anyone. It comes from within, you simply know. How you know? Because you contemplated on a certain topic. The question was raised within your consciousness by you, and then you received the answer. So if we look at our body, we always look at it as some kind of a separate element, separate from the natural flow. So the nature consists of all kinds of elements. So are we? We are a part of nature. But at the moment, we live with this kind of consciousness where, or let's say, our awareness is not integrated with the nature, or it does not live in synergy with the nature. So the result of this is that we kind of oppose ourselves to the nature. So let's talk about the microscopic elements or pathogens or some other elements like microbes, bacteria, viruses. So why would we be scared of something like that? In this world, we're used to think that everything is divided into positive and negative. And we want to deny negative, we want to cultivate positive. But wise people or evolved people do not deny anything, nor they cultivate anything. They come back to the natural being, and the natural being is in synergy with the nature. But in synergy with the nature does not mean positive or negative. It means flow, natural flow. And natural flow means that whatever is coming one's way, one is taking a look at it and observing, understanding it, perceiving it directly without interpretation. The moment you start interpreting, mixing it with fears, with different other emotions, so you create an illusion out of a neutral phenomena, or whatever natural, let's say, phenomena you're experiencing. So then this way you create entanglement, right? So now what comes to our health, we always look at it as some kind of a separate element. The same goes with the body. Now, people are scared of germs, bacteria, viruses, especially at this day and age. But yet we do not understand, on our current science is giving us arguments or ideas that actually do not support the natural flow of nature. It does not support the actual happening. It gives us intellectual understanding, yet which could be or is in most of the cases very far from what's really happening. Now, bacteria and viruses have been there for millions of years, probably earlier even came into picture than human beings. So bacteria and viruses always had a purpose to, or they always played a certain role. For example, bacteria or even viruses sometimes have a role. One of the roles is to decompose something that is rotting, something that is sick. So it is not that the bacteria attacks that, but the bacteria is trying to simply help the process of decomposition which is happening. Now, most of the people who fall for all these supposedly viruses and bacterial infection or any kind of infections actually have already sort of a high level of inflammation going on in their body. So the virus and bacteria attacks only that, which is already in the process of decomposition. Now, most of the population on the planet at this day and age are slowly rotting from their birth towards their death. So what we understand by life is not life, is rotting in the body. Because whatever we consume, half of our food, if not more, is artificial, man-made. So something which is creating a lot of toxins in the body. Now, if there is high toxicity in the body, there is constant, the body is trying to purge it, so there's a constant inflammation process in the body. So the body is slightly heated up so that it's trying to process the amount of toxins. Now, when the toxins are over the limit, over the board, it is easier, or there is a soil for viruses and bacteria to come easier because there is no shield, there is no immunity. Immunity is, first of all, a spiritual shield, but it's also the spiritual shield that is also generated, or let's say processed through the physical body. So let's say, even if you're extremely positive or you think only positive, it will not help you if your body already is sick to some degree, or there's a lot of toxins in the body. Because even your positive thoughts, they might give you an idea. For example, you may come across some kind of a solution. Let's say you decide to detox. So that would be a positive thing. But still, the body is already going through a certain process. So in this case, the mind cannot affect the body. The body will take over the mind or consciousness and will start affecting it. How? Whatever the microflora of the gut, for instance, or whatever the status of the body in general, if it's half inflamed, the person will be always agitated, anxious, fatigued, because the body is trying to process excess of toxicity, or toxin, sorry, excess of toxin, a lot of toxicity in the body. And so the body is trying to heat up. For instance, when you speak on your phone for a long time and it's already too much, the phone gets heated up. So, or any other machine, the body is a biological machine. When the mind is impure, it adds to the toxicity of the body. But the impure mind leads to impure choices in lifestyle, food, also pollution of consciousness, where the body maybe can be eating healthy, but the mind is constantly attaching, constantly processing something in this illusionary reality. And so the mind is preoccupied. Now, this kind of preoccupation of the mind will also result in unwise choices with the food or lifestyle or any kind of choices in life. And so these choices in life will have implications on further development of flow of life. And so the person will always be under an impression, false impression, first of all, that they're in control of life. And as long as they're trying to be in control of life, they will be angry if something goes out of their control. Now, this is one case scenario which shows that the mind will affect the body. The body will be maybe going into compulsive modes or anger modes or anxious, imbalanced, and so on. So, and to reach a balance of mind is not so easy, because you have to deal with the reality, which is, or system, which is very much imbalanced. But your choice in every point of this life flow always makes a difference for you. So if your choice is under control of someone else, for example, oh, I can't do this because people will think of me this way or that way, or I'm embarrassed, or I am afraid. So as long as your emotions are in control of you, even though it may appear that other people are dictating it. No one is actually dictating anything. You allow other people to control. So you are not in a natural flow of your being. You are in a collective chaos of being where everyone is affecting everyone on an emotional, mental, and physical level as well. Because emotional and mental is closely related to the physical. So the disease process starts definitely from the mind and consciousness, our choices, our way of seeing ourselves, perceiving ourselves, and the world. And as long as we feel victimized, as long as we feel anger, aggression, as long as we are given to fears, whether it's collective fear, whether it's individual fears, we are not able to be in balance or truly healthy, because prolonged stress about certain point of certain aspect in life will result in some organ malfunction or failure even. For instance, if you're constantly under a stress of guilt and shame, so your kidneys will definitely be affected, or your other organs, because organs, the biological sort of system is always affected by the thoughts, because it processes and stores this information from the subtle body, or whatever you call it, energy body. It's not important. So most of the people do not see the subtle dimensions of the self. That's why their understanding of health is solely on the physical level. Now we have a lot of people who practice this commercial exercise like yoga, yet most of these people are sick, or they are affected by something. Is because there is no integration there. There is no understanding of self on a deeper level. There is an idea, imagination, bookish knowledge, ambition. Yet this is very far from yoga and from spirituality. That's just an example. Now, this sort of false ideology or concepts or beliefs lead people to false perception of reality, which is again away from the natural being. So as long as we are away from the natural being, our choices are affected by our own consciousness and its veils. And so our body will be affected too. Now, bacteria and viruses are there for a specific purpose, and this purpose is to help us to balance ourselves. If our body shows us that it falls sick very often, frequently having some kind of infections or as if inflammation, it means that something is stagnating, something is impure. There are toxins in the body. Toxins can penetrate different levels. If they penetrate only the level of, let's say, saliva, because this is the way Siddha medical science is seen, or even Ayurvedic science is very close to that. So if it penetrates the level of saliva or blood, is easy to cure. But when it's going into blood and muscle and even bone, or even semen, it's considered to be incurable disease, because it's penetrated through the tissues. It affected different layers of self, because these are not just tissues. They are related to our consciousness and perception of self. So on the level of blood impurities, if let's say the disease has penetrated the level of blood, it means there are impurities in the food, or something we're eating not right, or the way we are treating our body, maybe we're not sleeping. So we will see our skin will be in a certain way, our level of energy will be in a certain way. But if we correct our diet, if we change something in our lifestyle and also in our thinking, we can cure it. Now, when disease goes deeper than that, it means there are deeper issues which are also in the subtle body, and they are kind of trying to materialize in the physical body. So when people are affected by bacteria and viruses, it means that their soil is impure. And that's why these little beings coming there to help the process of decomposition, because the body becomes a hub of negative energy, a self-generated negative energy, a lot of victimization. And that's why those organs that are processing these emotions, these thoughts, life in general, they will be affected. Plus our lifestyle and our diet, which is completely unnatural. Like if you go to a food store at the moment, you'll see that over 90% is just sugar-based foods, carbs, unhealthy, man-made, just some kind of items which are completely unnatural for our being. Yet the majority of people are hooked on that. So the food has become a drug. When it becomes a drug, it starts having an impact on our body, mind, and our overall understanding of life, you see. So when it's very important to understand the meaning of all these elements in life instead of just being scared of something. Fear is the biggest problem in our life, because we process everything through fear, because we don't know who we are. So anything unknown scares us, anything strange scares us. So everything scares us. Now, for example, whatever's going on at the moment scares everybody, because we don't understand who we are. We don't understand what is our relation to the nature, what is our relation to the food, what is our relation to each other. We don't have the connection. We have only emotional connections, and they are not always positive. And most of the time, these connections are based on some form of negative energy, or negative emotions, negative thoughts. We feel victimized. So as long as we feel victimized, we do not welcome life as us, or ourselves even as life. So we don't perceive ourselves as life. And that's why we rot from inside. Our idea of self is opposed to the world. And then we feel that the world is hunting us, the world is against us. So bacteria, viruses, it's a part of life. We're continuously surrounded by it. So why would it attack us if we are not that soil for it, a good soil for it? If you have a strong, pure mind or consciousness, your body is protected. Your organs are generating proper electromagnetic shield. And there is a certain radiation. The subtle body produces such a radiation which protects the body, the physical body, from any kind of negative elements or energy in any form. Because even if you talk about negative energy, it could be kind of seen like a light. Light is a wave and light is a particle. So negative energy can also be seen as a particle. Let's say virus is defined by human consciousness as negative energy, but it only comes there because there is already the source of negative energy inside that human consciousness. Now, when there is too much negative, too much positive, it's imbalance. And that's why such body becomes prey to something. And the point of this life is not to generate polarities, but to perceive oneself in an equanimous, neutral way. And then you see that flow of life is not having any particular explanation, logic, or any analysis within it. It just flows naturally. But we are out of this flow. That's why we have created illusionary flows, and we're trying to find the truth in the illusionary flows. It's not going to happen. The other thing what we're doing is we're trying to take a human being out of the flow and see it as some kind of a being or a body, separate element, and we're trying to cure it. There is no cure for a being which is separate from natural flow, because the natural flow cures itself by raising awareness about a problem. When one becomes aware, what is awakening? One becomes simply aware about something they haven't been aware of before. So when they become aware of something, their consciousness kind of sinks into it and opens up a new dimension within this consciousness and gives answers, gives ideas how to improve. So if we were in a natural flow of life, we would never be sick, we would never be imbalanced. So, and if our consciousness is kind of becoming more and more aware of it, it kind of also gives us a clue how to return or come back to the natural flow of self-being, which is kind of awakening to this realization that we are to be a part of natural flow. We are to be a part of natural spirituality. Natural spirituality is not divided into groups and all this kind of institutions or dogmas. It's a natural flow. It's a natural perception where one simply knows. It's a flow of self-born knowledge. The more one flows within life, the more one realizes within self. And that knowledge is definite for that consciousness, because that consciousness learns like this naturally. Each time deepening perception, seeing things from a different angle, understanding all perspectives, and yet flowing without analysis, without judgment, without being a part of anything within the flow. So this is the different, this is an awakened perspective from this thing. As long as we are separating human beings from a natural flow, we cannot really understand what we are as human beings and what the flow. There's always this separation of different elements, this, that, the world, me, reality, truth. These are all different words of the same existence. As long as we are a part of this existence, we cannot see what is really, because we cannot see ourselves. We cannot perceive ourselves naturally. And that's why we see that there are antagonistic forces which are supposedly against us. But we originally prepared that platform, that soil for it to sprout out. And if we rot from within, we do not detox, neither on the mental, subtle level, which is called mental and subtle level, emotional level means spiritual refinement, nor we try to balance ourselves on a physical level and integrate somehow all of this together just in a natural way, we will always be a prey of something. We will always give our conscious power to something, whether it's an object, a being, an idea, concept, or even this conceptual divinity. We will always project ourselves. And that's what we'll always reflect. Now, somebody says, oh, there is the cause of this problem could be virus, the cause of this problem could be bacteria. A lot of these things are theories, because everybody sees reality within the limited scope of understanding this reality. And for instance, as we observe reality in a certain way, our laws of physics, laws of gravity are very different from laws of physics and gravity, which could be maybe observed and understood by a bird, by a snake, by a bear, or any other animal or insect. So our idea of reality is quite limited. And so far, we have created a lot of theories. People have, all the doctors, academics, and all kinds of people, and yet there's no solution for anything. There's no clarity or clear answer, because the answer is very simple, but the mind is very complicated. It is so complex that it needs all these theories and explanations and action of any sort, whether it's an experimentation, a medical action, a scientific action, a spiritual action, a ritualistic action, whatever that is, a healing action. Why animals don't have hospitals because they are in a natural flow. They perceive nature, they smell, they perceive nature, they observe. They know that if anything is imbalanced for any reason, there is a certain plant to take, and they know it from within. It's very simple. Many indigenous people live the same way, where they used to live before they were stripped of their lands and so on. So we have created all this, and we've been contributing to this all for thousands of years. Now, this is the result of our degradation. Now, if we realize that, we have to find a way to gradually evolve out of it, back to where we were once before. And this is the way to raise awareness about the natural being, about trying to come back to the natural being, which is not action driven, which does not have explanation, concept. It doesn't have to be anything. It's just life itself, but in a natural way, where the nature is a part of our being, where we perceive everything as a part of our being, where we see animals as a part of our world, where we perceive them, they perceive us, and there is no emotion of fear, anxiety there. There's just pure perception. If our mind was in that pure perception, it would be always absorbed. It doesn't mean it's dumb, or it's like, feels like on drugs, or it's a stone. No, it's the mind which is very clear, but it's a consciousness that is clear. It's not the thinking mind. It's not the mind that moves. It's the mind that perceives everything. It's pure awareness. So if we lived like that, we would understand what life actually is, and we wouldn't understand it on a logical or mental level, on an emotional level. We would just perceive it as a blissful equanimous existence. And then whatever would be the result of our previous actions in this life, we would perceive them and try to resolve them wisely, or try to find a certain way to process them in a different way. Or we would try to find solutions from within ourselves. And this would kind of gradually move us to the natural flow of being. So my best wishes to all of you: stay healthy, stay well, and try to come back to your natural being without actually trying, without making efforts, just being and perceiving that which is already there. And that which is already there is capable of restoring any flaws, any imbalances, any problems within you, if you are able to really give yourself time to be, or give yourself an opportunity to let go of control, which is based on this corrupt perception of self, which is victimization. Thank you for watching.